Hello, this is Raul Ramirez of the Catch Wrestling Alliance, where we help you to wrestle better than together we can keep real wrestling alive. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Yeah, I just want to get the announcements out of the way. So we still have our class going on at UCLA. If you're a student, you can always come along and train. Um, if you're in the Los Angeles area, you can definitely train with us at Fight Science MMA. Also, you can train with my buddy if you're on the East Coast in South Carolina, John Strickland, American Hook Wrestling. You can also train with us online on our website, at the Catch Wrestling Alliance Academy. That's at catchwrestlingalliance.com. We also have a lot of one-off courses there on our website as well if you don't want to like become a full-on member. But Actually, the one course that seems to like like always come up, at least for me, I'm always using the techniques, is definitely Pressure Pass Volume 2. That's up on there on our website. Highly recommend that one because I use those techniques all the time. So they really work, especially for no-gi jiu-jitsu competition and just no-gi training as well. I use the techniques in that series uh, all the time. Okay, so let me see. There's no big news right now to report. Maybe something coming up soon, but when things are more formed, we'll let you know. But something cool that happened, what was it, 2 weekends ago, was the Marcelo Garcia match where he faced Imanari in one championship. So the great thing about that was that we saw Marcelo Garcia come back. He said that he wants to like just compete because he had to take time off for all kinds of things, including battling cancer and stuff. So he wants to make the most of his health. So he's competing, and so he beat. I'm sure you saw. I'm sure maybe even one championship isolated that video and put it up. But you saw him beat one of the greatest leg lockers, right, of all time, right? One of the most feared leg lockers in MMA, Imanari. And we even have techniques named after him. Like we have the Imanari roll, right? So when you roll into getting the leg and then starting your leg locks and stuff. So um, but that was no match, right? We even did a video about it, right? How basically Marcelo Garcia shut down Imanari so hard that like the only thing that Imanari had left was that lockdown attempt to try to hang on to Marcelo's leg with his legs, but Marcelo just smashed that down and passed his guard and ended up getting the spoiler alert. He ended up getting Imanari in a north south choke, right? So which is also really great. But what was cool about that is that prior to this, and maybe a lot of you who follow jiu-jitsu already know, is that Marcelo Garcia's been basically like a almost like an advocate of like the tried and true way of doing jiu-jitsu, I guess, or at least the older way, where definitely focused on passing guard and then getting the other submissions, like the especially like head and arm choke and or like the north south choke and stuff. So he's not too big on the leg lock game, and Marcelo's won ADCC a few times as well. So anyway, recently he was on a podcast with Luke Thomas, right? You can also find that on YouTube as well. Hopefully, he doesn't pull this video down because I took a 20-second clip of his. So let's see if hopefully he's cool with us using this. But in this clip, Marcelo Garcia explains uh, what he emphasizes over leg locks. Okay, so go ahead and check it out.
So for me, that I have like a very like a success in another submission, because when I'm attack somebody in a guillotine, they cannot guillotine me back. When I attack them in a north south choke, they cannot north south choke me back. When I attack somebody from the back and I have like a rear neck choke, they cannot rear neck choke me back.
All right, so hopefully you got that. It was actually, it was a part of a longer clip, but I didn't want like Luke to find out and try to, you never know if someone's gonna try to pull your video down. So that's why I just have like that very short clip. So hopefully he's cool with that. You can see him in the video, so again, so hopefully he's cool with that. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was Marcelo Garcia's reasoning, right? So, a little bit earlier in the conversation, he said basically, whenever you get into a leg lock, then it is more of a 50-50 battle. Not necessarily the 50-50 position in the leg lock game, but when you go for someone, he kind of gave the example. If you go for like an Achilles lock, you have to get your feet and your ankle closer to their hands as well. So there's so many counters. There's a lot of ways that they can try to get their heel or do a counter heel hook or a counter Achilles. So regardless of the type of leg lock you're doing, it leaves you more vulnerable to counter leg locks than if you're or a counter submission than if you're passing guard, if you're taking the back, if you're going to north south choke, right? So um there's a lot less that like well these people can maybe try to counter but mostly what they're trying to do is escape, right? So it's not necessarily like there's a counter there if you're going for north south choke. I mean, maybe there's like some kind of counter choke to the north south choke that I think people have been trying, but you don't really have the best leverage if you're flat on your back, face up, and you're trying to do some like counter Ezekiel choke or something like that. Um, so usually, the people are trying to escape, and I think that's the main thing that Marcelo Garcia is trying to explain. Where it's like these other things, like going for rear naked choke or north south choke, they are basically a little more safe, and you more they put you in a better position than if you are um, giving them a little bit of an opportunity to counter. And some leg locks maybe give you a little bit more opportunities to counter than others, but still his approach is um, just bypassing that. And then we saw that in the match with Imanari. It's like he basically kept Imanari's arms up, like away from his body, so he couldn't even get a good like a good north south or basically a good lockdown. And then Garcia was able to pass the guard ultimately, and ultimately get that north south choke that he even talked about, which I thought was another thing to kind of bring up, because before the match, Garcia was talking about north south choke and how effective it is and how he uses it and all that. So it was really cool to see that he finished the match with that same technique. So that was really cool to see as well. And so, what does that have to do with catch wrestling and whatnot? Is basically it's like a lot of the principles that I talk about. You really want to focus on pinning the person, and a lot of times when you're pinning the person, you find that you end up passing their guard. Right? So it's kind of the same thing that Marcelo did in his match against Imanari. Maybe we can try to do. This is a video series that I kind of been wanting to do, but if anybody has any comments as to how we can kind of like enter into these counters, but there's a lot that you can do with your wrestling techniques that will help you to escape if someone tries to get you into like a leg entanglement and stuff. So there's a lot of like your normal, even like a wrestling sprawl, right? Really helps you to escape. So maybe I'll try to think of like common leg lock entries and how to use your wrestling to get out. Also, if you're using a lot of that pinning pressure, then it makes it hard for them to get under you, or hard. Basically, there's so many things about like that top-down approach that should make it more difficult for someone to get you into a leg entanglement, and then also if you're in good position, like you're. But then if they try, maybe they still kind of like invert and try to grab onto your leg. There's still ways to get out. So I'll keep thinking about it because I have been wanting to do like maybe a video series about that, like using wrestling to get out of common leg entanglement entries. So I'll keep thinking about it. But if anybody has a comment or a specific entanglement, then maybe you can try to do a video specifically on that because it is something I've been thinking about. But it was really cool to see Marcelo Garcia, a legend in jiu-jitsu and multiple ADCC champ, uh, kind of have a similar. Definitely not doing catch wrestling. So, don't. Hopefully, no one misconstrues that as. And then the next thing you know, people are calling Marcelo Garcia catch wrestling. No, it's definitely not. He's still a jujitsu guy, but it's cool to see really one of the greatest jujitsu guys kind of having a similar approach. The other thing there too that I think someone might bring up is how like catch wrestling is really like considered to be one of the styles with a lot of leg locks, but we want to kind of like reiterate that a lot of these leg locks came about to try to move the person, right? The toe hold. A lot of times it's to um, get the person to roll. Like if they're belly down, you can really crank their ankle to get them to roll face up. So kind of a pinning hold as well. Just like all the what people nowadays call submission holds, they were always just called you're considered wrestling holds. And if they're painful enough, and you want to relieve some of the pain, you roll onto your back. If you don't roll onto your back, then you get injured. So that's kind of the idea of it, right? Or that's kind of like the core of it. But especially nowadays, a lot of people tap to a lot of these things that weren't necessarily considered the biggest submissions, right? But that's so doesn't mean that there aren't submissions from like leg locks and stuff in catch wrestling. I mean, there really are, but that's the thing. A lot of it comes from the starting point of controlling the person, using these holds to like move the person, and then you can totally use them to submit someone, especially now in no gi. So especially those of you who want to be competing in no gi, go for it. You can totally use these principles. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up, where it's like you see someone, a legend in jiu-jitsu, kind of using a lot of these similar principles. So that should let you know that catch wrestling works, right? So, but yeah, focus on pinning, focus on keeping that top pressure, focus on passing the guard, focus on ways to make yourself less vulnerable when you're going for a submission. And so I remember actually speaking of John Strickland, and so I think he's definitely someone, if you're on the East Coast, you should train with him. But he often talks about like, because like nowadays for leg locks, like someone will grab the leg and then they'll fall back. So like they're falling back onto their back. But if you see John do a lot of his like Achilles stuff, it's like a lot of times it's still a little more belly down or controlling someone. It's not necessarily like falling back to pin yourself. He actually, we have a picture that we share often, and I got to share it again then, right? So at the demonstration that we did in Humboldt, Iowa, the home of Frank Gotch, John Strickland did a quick demo of some of the leg locks that we do, a lot of common Achilles stuff, but he wasn't, rolling onto his back and stuff like that. So I think that's one of the other differences that you might see, as opposed to like someone who's just like, oh, all leg locks are catch wrestling, and while the principles are the same or a lot of the similar things, like, but you'd see someone say like John Strickland doing a top down or a belly down approach, as opposed to rolling back and basically like pinning yourself, which is more of the common way someone begins like their leg lock submission attempt. Right. So, all right. With that being said, let's go ahead and maybe play the clip again. So, this is Marcelo Garcia. He actually starts off the clip. So right before it starts, he basically says that he's not so much in favor of the leg locks, and that he's seen even in the ADCC, like someone goes for a leg lock attempt, and then they end up getting submitted with a counter leg lock. And so then this is what he talks about right after.
So for me, that I have like a very like a success in another submission, because when I'm attack someone in a guillotine, they cannot guillotine me back. When I attack them in a north south choke, they cannot north south choke me back. When I attack somebody from the back and I have like a rear neck choke, they cannot rear neck choke me back.
All right, so that's the whole idea, where it's like he's going for these safer submission attempts. So for you, I think that what safe, especially if you are coming from a wrestling background or catch wrestling background, the safer thing would be to like pin, pass the guard, have that belly down approach where they're under you and they're not able to counter attack, but they're just trying to escape or something like that. They're trying to fight you and not really have much of a counter attack. So that's ultimately what Marcelo Garcia is saying. It's like that's like you're even safer if you have that approach. So feel free to make any comments. Let me know what you think, if that's your approach. I don't mind, like, of course I personally don't mind leg locks. I often train at a with when I roll in no-gi, it's leg locks are fine and all that. So so definitely used to it. So but like I said earlier, it's like you can use your wrestling to like get out or to escape or to shut down someone's leg lock entry attempt. So maybe that'll be like I said, I wanted to make a video series about that, but kind of wondering where to like which entries might be the most common, or so if you have any thoughts about like which way we should kind of approach it, then let me know. Feel free to comment, because it's been something I want to do, and to show that like even with the leg locks being so popular nowadays, you can still use your wrestling, and you still don't have to do leg locks. Even in the jiu-jitsu way, you can still be doing leg locks in a little bit more of a catch wrestling way. So I think just talking about it is like one thing, but you really got to show, right? It really helps people to understand if you show them, right, over just telling them, right? And that's one of the big things that like you might have a lot of people who talk about catch wrestling, right, but they're not doing it, right? So they're not showing it, right? So I think it's good to make a video series. So I'll work on that. I'll continue to work on that, right? But um, if there's anything that in particular that you kind of want us to talk about, also let us know. Oh, we got a comment here. That's funny. Mike Hunt. Guess it's just you and me. All right. Well, you have any questions, Mike? Let me know. Yeah, I guess it is just you and me. So, uh, let me know if you have any questions or comments about Marcelo Garcia's thoughts on the whole leg lock game and how he's not too big of a fan of it, right? And I think it's like he's a great example because he's an ADCC multiple time ADCC champ. All right, I was a little off topic, but why not? Okay, so Mike has a question. Talk about dealing with herniated discs and wrestling. This can totally be a different, like a totally different like podcast episode, but like just on its own. But let's go ahead and try to talk about this. So first of all, yeah, I am a licensed physician. But again, don't like so whatever I say isn't necessarily your exact scenario. So you definitely want to be listening to your primary doctor who's dealing with your case. But a lot of times it depends on the severity of the herniation. Definitely, you can be doing a lot of, or like we were talking about preventative stuff. So preventative stuff, you definitely need to be, like I say, it's you definitely need to be doing like all the different exercising, like the strength and stuff. That's why a lot of times the strength and conditioning can be very important, and then also the flexibility training. So throughout your whole life, that's going to be one of the things that is going to help prevent injury. And if you are injured, they like having a strong, flexible body that can help you to recover faster. um, sometimes people can have like injuries or herniations or all different types of problems with their spine, but not really be reporting any pain because their body is like a lot more balanced. This is one of the things that was found in researching like what like or basically researching back pain. And so you got to be doing these other things. And basically, if you do need a surgery and you get the surgery, they will usually recommend trying to get some kind of physical therapy. Try to do as many, whatever amount of sessions that they give you. So a lot of times, like moving, like getting back to moving, that really will help you because basically it only takes about 3 days of like say like if you are like say if you want to grow your biceps or something like that. So this is like let's do an isolated example. So you want your biceps to be big, you got to work them out frequently and usually within like say if you work them out on Monday and then you don't work them out until Friday, it's usually not a good enough interval, right? Because if you go longer than 3 days, your brain doesn't really think you're so serious about it. So if you create kind of like a habit, right, like a with that, like when you do the exercise a little bit more frequently, then your brain's going to help support that growth, right? So if you have taking that into the scenario of like having a surgery, that means you're probably going to have several days off from exercising. So then you do need time, right, to heal. But once you're at it, or once like the doctor gives you the okay to get back to exercising or physical therapy, you really want to take advantage of all that because you got to start moving again. You start trying to get the so same thing with the strength. If you're not stretching, you will lose flexibility, right? So you got to get back to kind of moving and stretching and that will help you to get back sooner, right? But again, it really depends on your individual case. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Like so, yeah. So yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like the rare case where it's like I've seen a lot of videos where people are like, "I'm not a doctor, so don't take my word for it." But I happen to be like a primary care physician, so yeah, I'm not an orthopedic surgeon or anything like that. Um, but at least with my years of experience, even in like training people, I was a trainer for UCLA. A lot of times it's all about the prevention, but then also the exercise and the flexibility training, even afterwards, can really, really help your body, help you to come back. So basically, keep moving. Ultimately, uh, so that can help get you back because your body is quick let you, or your body's quick to let go of your gains, right? Which is unfortunate, right? I think we all hate that, right? It's like you can't ever like stop exercising, right? Because you get so strong, but then if you just stop, then all those gains will go away. Right. So, Mike, I'll just practice punching till I can roll again. Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, main thing is you keep moving. I'd say try to stretch after your exercise, like your after whatever you do for exercise. try to stretch, that will be the better time for you to stretch. Yeah, so hopefully you keep us posted. Let us know once you get back to it, because so it sounds like at least you're punching, so that's a good sign. All right, so uh, back to the main point of the video. So it's like you can be using your wrestling to counter our your leg locks, but then also even the GOAT himself, Marcelo Garcia, is a bigger fan of things like north-south choke, which again you can get into using your wrestling as well. And it was really cool for him to talk about that and then to win by it, which is awesome. What's Garcia's issues with leg lock? So he said that he's seen people basically you when you go in for a leg lock, you kind of you give like or I mean think about when people are getting into leg locks, quite often they have to put their feet or their ankles near the other person's waist, so then that puts their legs into like arm's distance of the opponent. So he said that he'd seen so many times, especially like in ADCC, where someone tries to win by leg lock submission, but then they end up losing because the person did a counter leg lock on them. So what Marcelo Garcia prefers is stuff like, say, passing the guard, taking. So he says like if you do some like rear naked choke, your guillotine or north south choke, they your opponent doesn't really have much they can fight back with, right? So they can only try to defend. So that's why Marcelo Garcia's like submission success rate is higher than others, because he's not attempting these like leg locks where he puts his legs or his ankles in arm's reach of the opponent. That's his main point. Right? So he prefers doing these things where someone will be more on the defensive than where they can be in a situation like to counter your leg entanglement. Um, all right, so we're almost at the 30-minute mark. So maybe we'll kind of leave it around like a 30-minute one this time. But if you have any topics for us to cover, I think I'll be trying to interview some of the MMA fighters who've been training with us. 'Cause we've been having some guys who they're primarily MMA fighters, but they've been really valuing our catch wrestling classes. So I want to try to do some interviews with them so you can get some of their perspective. Oh yeah, yeah. So going back to the comments here, yeah. So Mike, oh, so he's not totally writing it off, just a preference. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so you probably won't see him doing it, but so he prefers to like a more safe or a less risky approach, right, to leg locks. Right, he preferred to pass. Right, so he preferred to do what he did in the Imanari match a couple weeks ago in one championship. But I thought it was a cool example because like since Imanari is so well known for leg locks, for Imanari to get his guard passed and then submitted with the north south choke, which just happens to be one of Garcia's favorites apparently, because he mentions it. He's mentioned it in other interviews as well. So it was actually pretty cool to see him like win by it. Um, All right. Okay. So if you want to support us, you can become a member of our YouTube channel, or if you want to become a student and you're not in LA, you can always join our online academy on our website. You can also get one-off courses. I really recommend the Pressure Pass Volume 2. You can always train with us in Los Angeles at Fight Science MMA as well. Um, All right. Oh, you got one more comment, Mike. So it's actually this is a good comment here. So I imagine technique preferences are based on different body types. I'm short with short arms and legs and a long torso. Yeah, exactly. So I think one of the big differences too is height. So a lot of people who are very tall you see them try because they see wrestling and stuff, so then they think the double leg takedown. But some people are very tall, like don't even worry about doing that. And that even in traditional catch wrestling, the double leg that we like the knee over toe double leg wasn't really recommended for like the taller guys. There are other techniques you can do, like headlock throw or all kinds of snap down, all these different other things that don't require you to level change so hard or so far. So yeah, exactly. So the main thing is that you can try different techniques, and then um, or if your coach knows better about like say taller wrestling style or whatever, or if they know better for your body type, then kind of talk with them about that as well. Because yeah, no, it's very true. And I think Marcelo talks about that as well because he's not like the biggest guy, but he's beaten big guys. So you got to find out what works for you and really try to use it to the fullest. All right. So with that being said, thank you very much for listening or watching. Um, just let us know what you'd like to talk about. Thank you to Mike for chatting with me. It's always cool when people chat. So I'll try to do this more regularly, or like maybe I'll try to make it like on a regular time, right? So that people can know when it is. So if you want to chat like when we're live, that's great. All right. Okay, so basically our goal here is to help you to get to wrestle better so that together we can keep real wrestling alive. Thank you very much.